I'm so happy you brought this up, Eric, because this is such a pervasive issue. Um, I feel like this burnout and hustle culture, I think it's getting better, but we're definitely not there yet. And, in the entrepreneurship world, I can say from, my own experience in the audit world, my own experience in the consulting world, it is just, it's crazy. It's crazy how this is something that we should be quote unquote proud of because it's not a good thing. I think if I can start to kind of paint this picture about burnout, what is burnout? Burnout is extreme fatigue, right? Extreme fatigue, there have actually been studies to compare it to drunk driving or impaired driving.
Yeah.
So if we start thinking about, okay, well, what happens to a person when they're drunk driving or impaired driving? They have lower reaction time. You have poor judgment, poor decision making, lower attention span,
Okay.
poor and lower coordination.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I just described to you, that's definitely not how we want to show up for our clients.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Exactly, especially as a leader.
Yeah.
And especially for, if we're talking about business owners, maybe they're a leader of a small team, or maybe they're a solopreneur. And you're showing up with poor judgment and, short attention span,
Yeah.
poor reaction time. Like these are just, it's a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about that, obviously no one would ever say, well, I'm going to do my work impaired, right? However, that's what burnout is, because you're having extreme fatigue and you're having both physical and mental manifestations of this extreme fatigue. So, I mean, for some women, it could be hormonal imbalance. For both men and women, it could be, increased blood pressure. It could be digestive issues due to stress. It could be a variety of things, a beautiful cocktail of horribleness. On the mental health side, it takes a long time to come back from burnout, right? It's this extreme fatigue that we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the cost of burnout, I think as a business owner, we were talking about plateauing before. The cost of burnout, I think, could be a plummet cliff, right? If you are in an extreme sense and you mess up on enough client work, if you no longer are able to interact with your clients the same way or prospect clients the same way, I mean, it's gonna come back to you. I don't know if you're familiar with the books. There's one called The Body Keeps the Score, and there's another one called When the Body Says No.
Okay.
And the thing with burnout is that it's essentially what it is we have ignored the signs so much that our body was whispering, that our body starts yelling at us and saying, no more, we're stopping here. And that's why it takes so long to come back and heal from it. Mm-hmm. So I think the cost is, potentially loss of some client relationships, slower work, not as good quality of work, things like this. And in terms of, you mentioned high achievers, and we think about like, how can people change? Mm-hmm. The unfortunate piece is a lot of people have to hit rock bottom in order to change, right? So they've really gotten to a point that they're just so exhausted that they can't show up. And I mean, if you're a solopreneur and you can't show up, it's not good for business.
And you are at that state.
You are at this.
So it's like, it's so impactful.
A lot of people have to hit rock bottom in order to kind of make changes, but it is so important that you do a little bit more, more internal work, and I'll get into that as well. But the reason being is that often people who are susceptible to burnout, kind of people susceptible to workaholism and things like this, it's cyclical and it will come back. Once they recover, they'll go into a new cycle and it will happen again. And the reason I think it's so important to dig deep in this is that if we look at the mental health side of this, what is driving the hustle? Are you working and hustling from a place of ego or fear or external validation? These are often the things that we'll see, especially through coaching. We'll see that these are essentially negative drivers that you'll push until you fall off that cliff. I mean, this is a metaphorical cliff, by the way. Let's just be clear on that.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yes. But I think it's really important to take the time and be introspective, be vulnerable with yourself or a coach or somebody else to identify what's causing that burnout.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too. Yeah. There's so many good things we could talk about from that answer. Like, I think I think back to my KPMG days, which you may or may not want to reflect on, but the one of the things that I was told by one of my like seniors at the time, like, was that like at the end of the day, it comes down to boundaries, right? Like, and
Mhm.
it's almost easier to just keep working than it is to just set a boundary and be like, oh, you know what, this is enough for the day, and that's harder. So do the hard work by actually setting yourself boundaries and being good for a marathon instead of being good for a sprint.